Good morning and welcome. I'm Tracy Strading, Director of the Michigan Assistive Technology Loan Funds at MI-UCP. I want to thank Emily, our captioner today, and let you know that the link to the live captioning is in the chat. And I'm happy to introduce our speaker for today, Amanda Ventura. Amanda is the Public Affairs Manager at Waymo, where she listens, educates, and advocates for the potential autonomous driving technology has to make roads safer, increase independence, and improve mobility access. She helps run Waymo Community, the world's first public education initiative about AVs, and manages Waymo's community and advocate outreach in the Southwest and nationally. I'm just going to hand it over at that point to Amanda, so I'm really excited to learn all that she has to tell us about the potential of autonomous vehicles. Oh, I also want to let you all know there'll be a Q&A at the end where you'll be able to ask questions several different ways, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Thank you. I'll turn it over.
Thank you so much, Tracy, and good morning to all of you. Such an honor to be here chatting with the UCPMI crew. I work a lot with United Cerebral Palsy nationally, as well as locally in our other markets. So just really excited to talk a little bit about Waymo, who we are, what we're hoping to do with this technology. You can on this slide, we have a picture of two of our vehicle platforms. The one I'm going to be talking about most today is our electric Jaguar I-Pace, which is the white vehicle. And you can see that these vehicles don't necessarily look like other vehicles. There's a lot of hardware on the outside. So I'm going to get into what all of the hardware and the sensors are on the exterior of the vehicle. We'll talk about the technology that's powering the vehicle, and then we'll talk about some of the practical applications in everyday society in areas where we do operate. So I want to start high level about just our company's mission. So Waymo, which actually stands for A New Way Forward in Mobility, is an autonomous driving technology company. So we're building technology with the mission to make it safe and easy for people and goods to get where they're going. On this slide, we have a photo of two uses of our vehicle right now. Actually pictured in one of our photos on this slide is Max Ashton and his wife Lillian. Max is blind, and in the photo he's using a white cane and opening the door for his wife before they take a ride. We also have Glinda pictured on this slide, and she is loading laundry as part of our charitable delivery program. We move laundry on behalf of an unhoused facility in Phoenix, bring it to a laundromat, have it washed and laundered, and then we bring it back to the facility. So why are we doing this? Safety is at the mission, is the mission for Waymo. And driving is not as safe as it could be on our roads today. So we know that there are more than 50 million injuries and 1.35 million deaths on our roadways worldwide. And half of those deaths are pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, people outside of a vehicle. And there's a common theme between a lot of these crashes. More than 90% of all of the crashes on our roadways have some element of human error or decision involved. So that could be speeding, distraction, drowsiness, or impaired driving. So, 15 years ago now, we started developing technology that we thought would help, remove the human element from this equation. So since 2009, we've been driving on roads and developing this tech. And over that time, we've driven millions of miles on public roads, billions of miles with a B in simulation, and across 13 states in the United States. I would say collectively, that's over 1,000 years of human driving experience that benefits every vehicle that's in our fleet. Like I said, we've been at this for a really long time. I won't get into the nitty gritty of, what every single photo on this slide depicts, but we started back in 2009 as the Google Self-Driving Car Project. And over the years, we have, seen a lot of things. We initially started this as a way to kind of be a driver assist system. And I'll go into a little bit about when that mission changed. So when we first started, I'm going to play a video for you guys. There's no sound here. But when we first started, we integrated our technology into vehicles and allowed Google employees to use that technology in the vehicles that they could, use to get around town. And what we saw was disturbing to us. One of the things we told them was you have to pay attention and, still basically be driving, but just allow the technology to do the operations. And we saw people putting on makeup, texting, using their laptops. And this is the one that kind of broke everything for us. We saw this person fall asleep behind the wheel. And that's when we decided that, we could not just be pursuing automated driving assistance systems. We had to do fully autonomous driving technology, meaning you don't need a driver's license. You don't need to be doing any part of the operating of the vehicle. Let me advance our slides here. There we go. And so for those of you who are a little bit newer to what we consider fully autonomous technology, there is a system. There were a bunch of really smart engineers who put together basically 5 different levels of automated features in vehicles today. So if you do drive today, some of those features that are in cars today, we would consider like level 2 autonomy. So that's like driver assist, lane keep assist, cruise control, basically things that are incorporated into our vehicles to make it safer for us to be on the roads. But we still require a license. We still have to do a lot of the driving behaviors. Even vehicles that do have very advanced systems would maybe fall in this like level 2 to level 3 area of autonomy. What Waymo's working on is what we call high automation level 4 autonomy. So that means you can get into the back seat or the front passenger seat of the vehicle. You never touch a steering wheel, and it takes you from point A to point B. And that's true autonomy, and that's what we're working on. I think my computer is not advancing the slide. Let's do it manually. All right, so we put this into practice for the first time in 2015. We have pictured here a vehicle without any steering wheel or pedals. This is an electric, we called it the Firefly. Some people called it the gumdrop because it kind of looked like a gumdrop with another smaller gumdrop on top. And pictured here, we have Steve Mann, who's legally blind, sitting inside this vehicle, completing the world's first fully autonomous ride on public roads in Austin, Texas in 2015. He rode around a little quiet neighborhood, maxed out at 25 miles an hour, and made history back in 2015. The following year, we put this into a broader application. So we put our technology on the exterior of a hybrid Pacifica minivan, which is pictured here on this slide, and started inviting members of the public the following year to take rides with us as part of a confidential research program to see, how we could apply this technology into everyday use cases. So before I kind of get into those everyday use cases, I think it's really helpful to introduce you guys to the Waymo driver. So it's not a human, it's technology, but we're going to call it a driver because it is doing all the driving. So basically, there's 2 components that make this technology successful. The hardware, AKA all of the sensors that are on the outside of our vehicles, and the software. I'm going to start with the hardware. So everything that's, physically outside our vehicles. There's 3 different types of sensors on the outside. LiDAR, vision, which is cameras, and a radar system. So all of these are existing sensor types, but the way that we use them is what makes this novel. So our LiDAR technology is what allows us to see a really detailed 3D picture of the world around us in full light, full darkness. It basically uses lasers or light pulses to basically bounce off of items or things or people that are around the vehicle, and create like I want to say kind of like a patchwork or like a flashlight kind of appearance, of what's around us. That then works with really, really high definition cameras. We have 29 of them on the outside of the vehicle to paint kind of a more higher definition view of the world. So this allows us to, see images with like that greater perspective than a LiDAR system would. It gives us overlapping field of view directly around the vehicle. And they also have cleaning systems and heaters, which help with weather conditions. A lot of our vehicles, as you'll see, are in sunny areas, but we have tested in areas like a Michigan. And those heaters are important. Our last system that we'll talk about is radar. A lot of us who have our own vehicles may actually see a signal pop up when we engage cruise control that says radar engaged. So radar is really helpful with depth perception. It allows us to track static and moving objects. It can see small objects at greater distances, and it distinguishes those distances between closely spaced objects too. So it complements the LiDAR and the cameras in weather conditions such as rain, fog, and snow. So altogether, these sensors paint a really complete picture of the world around us, 360 degrees, and allows us to safely navigate the world. The software side is the game changer, though. So artificial intelligence touches every part of our system, and it helps us answer 4 key questions that any driver on the road needs to be able to answer, whether that's a minivan that you're driving, or a Class 8 truck that's on our roads. So those 4 questions are: where am I? What's around me? What's going to happen next? And then what should I do? So I'm going to break these down very quickly into how Waymo asks and answers these questions. So before we can operate anywhere, we have to create really detailed 3D maps of the world that we plan to be driving in. So that helps us answer kind of where am I? Once we have those maps and we're driving around, we're able to place ourselves, give ourselves localization to say, okay, I know exactly where I am. Next is what's around me. So our sensors are going all the time in real time to understand and look for objects around the vehicle: pedestrians, cyclists, other vehicles, roadwork, obstructions, traffic controls, traffic lights, bike lanes. You get it. And so once we know what's around us, and we compare it against what we already know exists in that area, we can start beginning to do what we call prediction, which is figuring out what's going to happen next. So we can predict movements of objects around us based on information like speed and trajectory. I'll go into a little bit later some of the examples, but the software uses information like how fast is an object coming toward me, or how fast is someone crossing the street, to predict possible paths that that road user is going to take. Based on all that information, we then say, okay, what should I do? So, we're going to change our own trajectory, our own speed. We might change lanes. We might engage different steering maneuvers like a left turn to help us progress safely along the route. For those of you who can see this slide, this is a really, really complicated scene from Los Angeles, and it's a split screen that we're showing here. So one is kind of like a camera view of what's happening outside the vehicle. The top screen is showing a view of kind of what the vehicle is perceiving as we progress through this really complicated intersection. So pictured here, you're going to see a lot of cyclists, pedestrians, people who are doing what we call kind of like a road takeover. A lot of cyclists will do this in areas, dense urban areas like Los Angeles. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. So you see some of the actors outside the vehicle, sitting on their bikes. Our vehicles being very cautious here, figuring, the best route to progress. And you can see all of the people that we're picking up, all the cars that we're tracking, to ensure that we're being safe as we progress along our route. I know there's a lot to take in. I'll play it one more time. My favorite is the wheelie that pops on the left-hand side, so keep an eye out for that too. But as you can see, there's a lot of complexity that we're working with here, and the technology is able to perceive far more than a human driver can, including, very far up in the distance. What are those cyclists doing that are coming toward us? All right. So moving on to the next slide here. I have one more video here. So this video is unique. This is, I believe, in San Francisco. And what we're going to see here is we're coming up to a four-way intersection again. And the reason that we're focusing so much on intersections is this is where a majority of crashes and fatalities on our roadways happen. And so driving through intersections is a really important and complicated task for human drivers, as well as a automated system. So I'm going to show you here, we're progressing through this intersection, and there's someone who's approaching this crosswalk. They're using a white cane, so our system notices like, hey, we need to slow down. There's someone who's crossing the street. And I think that this is just unique because it just shows that our system is incredibly cautious, but that we can also perceive, individuals who use a mobility device as well. This last video I'm going to show you, also from San Francisco, shows us at another intersection. This time we're trying to turn right, and there are people crossing through a crosswalk area. And we just show someone using a wheelchair and being with their accompaniment. And again, just driving with ultimate caution and the ability for our technology to also perceive that someone is using that mobility device. And then we turn and immediately there's people getting into the car. So we're just exercising that additional caution that pedestrians don't always get from human drivers. All right. This last example is one that I personally have experienced. Not this exact experience I'm going to share, but this is, again, our car in action and something that I have seen while riding in the vehicle myself. So we're going to see a red light runner here. So we have the green light, we're progressing through the intersection, and then all of a sudden a silver car just pops out right in front of us. I'm going to break down this scene for you guys in how the Waymo driver approaches this scenario. So you're pictured here is a rudimentary idea of this four-way intersection. We see the green light from the camera view, and we can kind of see a zoomed out version of what the Waymo vehicle is able to perceive. Now, what's happening here is that we have the green light. We see that there's a vehicle already stopped at the cross traffic red. But what we notice, and what you can't see in the camera view, but what the technology can notice, is that there's another vehicle approaching that red light, but their speed is not changing. And so what we do is we put up this red barrier that you see pop up. And so our technology knows, do not proceed beyond this point until this other car passes. And so as we predicted, the person who did not change their speed while approaching the red light runs the red light. The Waymo driver was able to slow down and avoid a collision. And so that's just one example. I personally have seen many red light runners while I've been in a Waymo. I've been in a Waymo when pedestrians have just decided to run out into the middle of the street, and the predictive technology is absolutely amazing. Okay, so you understand the technology now. How is this helping society? How can this be applied to what UCP is working on, in Michigan and elsewhere? So I want to talk to you about our ride hailing service. And so back in 2017, we launched the world's first public service to, actually, it wasn't public at the time, sorry. Back in 2017, we started inviting members of the public to ride with us. with our vehicles in what we called the Trusted Tester Program. So it was a confidential research development program where writers were able to test new features, share their thoughts and experiences directly with our team, and basically help us shape the future of autonomous driving. Over 20,000 people signed up within the first week. So that's back in 2017. Fast forward to today, we have a service that operates 24/7, is available to the public in Metro Phoenix, and that we're working to bring to more cities. And we serve thousands of riders and we help them get where they're going, whether it's grocery store, work, medical appointments, date night, wherever they want to go. Pictured here is actually my friend Sheila. She lives in an affordable living community in Metro Phoenix, and she uses Waymo because she herself doesn't feel safe driving and doesn't have a license. So the way it works may seem familiar to many of you who have used Uber or Lyft before. It's an app on your phone and you enter your destination, you confirm your trip details, and then Waymo will come to you, take you where you need to go. A couple things that I want to highlight about the app is some of our accessibility features. So we do have screen reader support. The feedback that we've heard from members of the disability community is that the screen reader is great, but we always are learning and hearing feedback on ways to also improve. Some of the accessibility toggles or options that we have within our app include wheelchair accessible vehicle, assistive in-car audio, and minimizing walking time. And I'll talk about all of these over the next few slides. So the first one I'll start with is our wheelchair accessible vehicle service. So right now, all the vehicles in our fleet are the electric Jaguars, which are not wheelchair accessible, but we do work to provide wheelchair accessible vehicles on demand through our Waymo app. And we have partnerships that provide that service in areas like San Francisco and Phoenix, where we have, public rider use case. Additionally, for the next accessibility feature that I talked about, minimizing walking time. So, one of the things that can, be useful is when you're hailing your ride, we actually will say, hey, there may be a 3-minute walk after your drop off based on where, the pin is for your destination. And so it's possible for you to instead say, I would rather take a longer ride if it means that I could get dropped off at an area that has, less walking involved. And so there is that customizability, and having the minimizing walking distance toggled on in the app will just automatically find the area that has the lowest walking distance required. When it comes to finding your car at pickup, wayfinding is really important. It's important for especially our users who are blind or visually or have low vision. And we do have kind of wayfinding features incorporated into the vehicle. So that could be a screen reader function that says your car is 100 yards away, or it could be haptic cues that kind of help navigate, like, hey, turn left here, or 350 feet ahead is where your vehicle will be, as indicated through this short video that's playing right now. We also have a horn honking function. So let's say you're, in a crowded parking lot. This happens to me a lot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where did the Waymo actually stop? And so the horn honking function, which was suggested by someone who uses our service who's blind, it actually is really useful just for everyone. And we find that element of universal design in a lot of our accessibility features. And so horn honking helps as well. We're working on getting nicer tones, especially in these dense urban areas where horn honking happens frequently. But for the time being, there's a button in the app that you can press that helps you locate your car via horn. So those purpose-built car sounds is something that I just shared. We're also working on something that's a little more pleasant. Additionally, one of our safety features, and this helps too in crowded areas, is a vehicle ID. So on top of our vehicles, we have these huge spinning sensors. Some people call them the top hat. That's our long range LiDAR. And it has a video or like a visual graphic screen around it that you can customize. So when you hail your ride, you can pick between 4 different colors and a 2-letter phrase. Maybe it's usually your initials. So for me, it'd be AV. On the screen, we have MW. So when your car arrives, you'll know it's yours because it's in the color that you selected and it has the initials that you selected. So when you get into the vehicle, there's a screen that depicts various things. The map view, so you can watch your vehicle along the route, music, temperature, different map views actually. So one of my favorite map views that you'll see pop up here is one that kind of looks similar to some of the videos that I showed earlier, where you can kind of see some of the elements that the technology itself is seeing. And I love watching it because I'll be like, oh, wow, yeah, I just saw that cat. Or, you know, you can see all the other cars kind of coming up around you. And it really does, you know, that's probably the most interesting part of the ride. You know, anyone who's been for a ride with us will say it's pretty boring for the most part, but it's really cool sometimes to just watch that screen. But for the most part, people just kind of sit back and relax. You'll also see this call support button here. We have 24/7 support available because our service is 24/7. And that's available through in-car PA audio system. There's also a pullover button that you see here so that you're in charge of the ride. So for whatever reason, if you decide I want to pull over, whether, you know, you see something at a garage sale that you want, or, you know, you're just like, hey, this is, you know, I feel like I'm going to get sick or what have you. The pullover function is just there so that you have control of your ride. I will note that the pullover function will find a safe place for you to pull over per Waymo's, you know, system. And so sometimes when I use the pullover function, it'll say, hey, you know what, I'm going to pull over, but I'm going to pull over, you know, on this off street instead of on this busy, you know, 45-mile-per-hour through street. So another one of the accessibility features that I'd mentioned on an earlier slide is in-car audio cues. I personally have this turned on because I'm not always watching the screen while I'm in a car. And so what this does is it will tell you yielding to pedestrians, waiting for the intersection to clear, progressing along this street. For particularly long rides, this is really nice too for our riders who are blind or have low vision, because it allows them to just, you know, check in, like what's happening, why is the car slowing down, why did we stop, why are we not moving. Sometimes it's just stopped at a red light. And we find that those additional cues they help give that peace of mind of like, hey, Waymo's, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Like I said, we have that 24/7 rider support. It's available via the in-car audio, a phone call, email, or chat. And then there's also an urgent help button as well. So this technology is rolled out in 3 different cities right now: San Francisco, Phoenix, and Los Angeles. Right now, Phoenix is our largest service area, so it's 225 square miles. You can land at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, hail a ride from either the terminals during certain hours or the SkyTrain. We also have our service available in San Francisco. Right now, you still need a ride code to ride in San Francisco, but we're onboarding people from our wait list all the time. Coming up soon is Los Angeles, as well as Austin, Texas. So across these cities, we are working with very diverse, different types of, you know, communities, city design, you know, mobility preferences. And in all of these cities, we are, you know, working to improve our technology, and we're always improving. One of the things that, you know, I get after every presentation is, okay, so you can do this, but like, how safe are you? You know, have you been in any crashes? And so one of the things that I want to share with you is that Waymo has a really dedicated safety research team and very, I would say, high levels of transparency in terms of the information about our driving behavior that we share. Our researchers have published more than 20 papers since 2020. They are constantly sharing what we're learning, how we're improving. But the most recent research paper that came out, and one that I really love, was done in partnership with a company called Swiss Re or Swiss Re. And what Swiss Re is a reinsurer. So they basically insure the insurance companies. What that means is that they have a really, really small tolerance for risk. And so we basically gave them all of our driving information, all of our safety stats, anything that happened while we were on the roads without a human operator, and said, how does this compare to human benchmarks? And what we found is that there was an 85% reduction in injury-causing crash rates and a 57% reduction in police-reported crash rates when the Waymo driver's data was analyzed. So last year, Waymo served more than 700,000 ride-hailing trips with public riders and no human driver. And we couldn't have hit that milestone without putting public safety front and center. And so what this data also kind of, basically it's kind of hard to understand, like all those big numbers, like I haven't driven 70 million or 7 million miles in my life. But basically what this means is that there are 17 fewer injuries and 20 fewer police reported crashes when you're comparing human drivers to a Waymo. And it's based on if they have driven the same distance and in the area specifically where we operate. If you're a complete data nerd, I definitely recommend going to waymo.com/safety, and you can read all the white papers, all the research, get some of the cliff notes as well, and just, you know, really dive deep into our safety stats and our framework as well. Another really important part of our work is making sure that this service is inclusive and accessible. So a couple years ago, we started the Waymo Accessibility Network, and it's a kind of more formal forum where organizations, leaders in the disability community, members of the disability community are able to meet with our product team, our engineers, hear about what we're working on at Waymo, what hasn't been released yet to the public, and give us candid feedback in the process so that, you know, by the time we are launching these features, we know that we have worked closely with the disability and accessibility community to make sure that it's something that they actually want and can use. And it's one of my favorite parts of my job. And I'm really proud of, you know, our company's dedication to making this technology accessible and inclusive, and also recognizing that, you know, we still have a lot to learn and a long way to go. On this slide, we have, you know, a quote from Enzo, who's the president and CEO of United Spinal Association. And it says, involving the disability community from the ground floor in technological advancements is the key to being a true champion of inclusion for today's leading innovators. I want to end this presentation by sharing a video of Charlie. So Miss Charlie Duffy, she's 16. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona. She has cerebral palsy, and she's been working with United Cerebral Palsy since she was 3 years old. She's had dozens of surgeries, and she's just one of those people where, you know, her spirit just, it's contagious, like just how incredible she is. And so we invited Charlie to come take a ride with us in Metro Phoenix. And her grandpa Pop is also with her for this ride. And she's talking about her lived experience with CP and, you know, what she hopes for in the future with this technology.
I try to take every day one day at a time, and I think you just have to make the most out of every single day. When you look at me, most people won't see that I have cerebral palsy. I've lost count about how many surgeries I've had. It has to be more than 20.
I have never, ever had to think about, can Charlie do it? She has not only conquered it, she has knocked it out of the park.
Because I have cerebral palsy, I know that some things were going to be harder for me. Right now I can't play, but I'm still the loudest person on the field, encouraging them.
My hat is Killer Bees. It's where Charlie plays club softball. She's a role model. I'm 70 years old, and a 16-year-old is my role model.
I met UCP when I was 4 years old when I first got diagnosed with cerebral palsy. As I got older, they became my family.
UCP broadly is a large health and human services organization. We provide comprehensive services across the board. And then we also have our therapy clinics.
When I was at UCP, it never really mattered that I couldn't do it. It was how can I adapt to do it, how my body wants me to do it.
Charlie personifies what overcoming adversity can actually bring to an individual.
Being independent is a key thing in anybody's life. You can't learn by someone always holding your hand. I think Waymo will help a lot of people be independent.
In the trip that we took, they obeyed the traffic laws to a T.
Maybe I'll call Waymo to take me to therapy.
And then, what do I do?
We can pick you up and go get ice cream.
When you think about transportation, it's just a part of everyday life that folks who aren't challenged by it kind of take it for granted. Waymo is a game changer, and autonomous vehicles are a game changer.
This is such a blessing that I have the opportunity to share my story with everybody and let them know that everything happens for a reason. The best thing you can do is just to live life with happiness.
We don't have to watch that again, but that's it for my presentation. I wanted to save a lot of time for Q&A because I know everyone has questions every time we talk about this technology. So Tracy, I will stop sharing my screen and we can go into the Q&A portion.
Lovely, great. All right, so there's lots of ways we can do the Q&A. So one of the things is you can raise your hand and then I can unmute you. If you'd like to ask your question out loud, you can put your question either in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll be happy to read that if you'd prefer and have them answer. So however you'd like to do it, if you want to raise hand there, I do see one, so I'll start with that one. And then it looks like the Q&A's gotten started, so we're off into the races here. Okay. Cindy Shapiro, I'm going to let you talk. So it should be working now. You'll have to unmute yourself to ask your question, Cindy. Okay.
I can answer one of the typed questions. While
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead. And then Cindy, I'll watch for you.
Great. So the first question is, how do costs compare with Uber or Lyft? Which is a really good question. So I would say it's somewhat comparable. I live in Metro Phoenix. I use the Waymo service. I also use Uber and Lyft. And I think that it's comparable. One of the things I will say is I do think there are certain elements of Waymo that you can't really put a price on. So some of the facets of personal safety, also not knowing that it's a driver that is superior to a human driver, can see farther, make safer driving decisions, doesn't get angry, distracted. You know, I think those are things that I personally, like when I'm making a decision about a ride, I consider. I would say a lot, like depending on the time of day and the day of the week, most of the time Waymo can be cheaper, a cheaper option. And one of the things that we're also exploring is dynamic pricing with different partners. So one of the things we do in Metro Phoenix, for example, is we provide free rides to Foundation for Senior Living for individuals who are residents in their affordable living communities. And we've also done programs and pilots with our transit authority in Phoenix where we've integrated into some of their paratransit services and provided rides at a subsidized rate of $5. That was part of a research project we did with Arizona State University and the Federal Transit Authority. And so we're constantly looking at ways that we can make the service itself also accessible via price range. And, I think that that's something too where we're constantly working on the ways that we can do that as well. Let's see, can a person purchase their own car and install Waymo on it? So that was the next question. No. So at this point, we're developing the technology and putting it on a fleet that we own and manage. So we're working really closely with car manufacturers like Jaguar Land Rover, which makes the vehicles in our fleet today. We assemble the technology onto the vehicle platform at our facilities in Detroit and South Michigan. And then we ship them to the areas where we're going to be operating. Getting this technology on personally owned vehicles is a question we get a lot. And so it's definitely something we hear, but I think right now, our focus is on ride hailing. This technology is expensive. It has to be, calibrated, maintained. And so we have, a huge team of autonomous specialists and team members at our garages that are, making sure all the sensors are in tip-top shape before they go out on the roads. And so, I think that this kind of goes into maybe some of the accessibility questions too, of this is a way for someone who can't get a driver's license to hail this vehicle on demand and use it whenever they need it. Personally owned vehicles can sit dormant, like 90% of the time that we own them. And so one thought here is, is this better for everyone if we have the vehicles that are on the road, are from a shared fleet versus, having to have the insurance and do all the maintenance on a vehicle that we personally own. So, those are just some of the cases for, having this as a shared vehicle platform.
Now, do you want me to read the next one for you, Amanda, or would you prefer to read it yourself? It's up to you.
Oh, I can read it. Yeah. Is this the one from Nan?
Okay. Yeah, I thought I might help it. You go for it.
Okay, yeah, sure. So this question's from Nan. I'm thinking about safety, not just riding, but we have a deaf-blind person in Flint that has been missing for 3 days. Wow, I'm really sorry. She was walking to the dollar store, and I can't help but think she might not have disappeared if she had access to something like Waymo. What is the plan to bring it to Michigan? Nan, thank you for sharing this. The plan to bring our technology to Michigan. So right now the technology is being assembled in Southeast Michigan. We have done some limited testing in Michigan, mostly in the snow. So right now, weather is one of the limiting factors to where we can operate. We are constantly making headway in that. So we can drive in fog, rain, windstorms that we have in Phoenix. Snow can be a little more complicated, but we've been doing active testing in Buffalo, New York, in New York City itself, as well as in Novi. And I think those kinds of testing experiences are going to help us roll out into more cities with more extreme weather conditions over time. Let's see, the next question. Are there mileage limitations? Can someone travel to another city? Yeah, so the limitation right now is everything is what we call geo-fenced. So we have to really, we have to map everywhere that we're going to be operating right now. And so that means we're operating in a very finite area of the cities that we're serving. We are constantly expanding our maps. And so I want to say this time last year, maybe a little bit before that even, we had kind of 80 square miles of Metro Phoenix that we were serving. And now it's 225 square miles. And so as the driver continues to improve, as we continue to increase the number of vehicles within our fleet, that enables us to have larger service areas. But yeah, no cross-country trips yet. But for the time being, this is, I would say, like, our service area in Metro Phoenix is, like a 45-minute drive corner to corner. And so, you can get some good mileage in. The next question from anonymous attendee is, are these being tested in areas similar to Michigan where roads are often more challenging due to barriers such as snow and ice? Yeah, so you're correct. We are driving in areas that do not have a lot of snow. I think we, just started offering our public service without a human operator back in 2020, and the technology has improved in its capabilities to drive in different weather conditions, even in that short time. I've personally been working with Waymo and taking rides with Waymo since 2016, 2017. And I can tell you, like, recently there was a college football game, and it got canceled because of a haboob, which is like a very large dust storm. And it was lightning, raining, and the wind with the dust was happening. And I took a Waymo home that night, and I was just completely in awe of the fact that our car was driving in that weather, as someone who, remembers when that wasn't possible. And so, these advances are happening. We have a dedicated weather team, and they do really impressive work. I think there's even some like meteorologists specifically on our team as well. And so just know, like, weather and snow are definitely high priorities for us to be solving for. So the next question is, what happens when Waymo needs fuel or a recharge? So we're all electric, proudly. We run on 100% renewable energy as well. So we purchase energy credits from, the areas where we're operating. And basically the vehicle will go back to base when it's time for a recharge. Because this is a 24/7 service, our vehicles are, probably recharging once or twice a day, and, getting serviced, like making sure the tire pressure is great, all the fluids are good, all the regular car stuff, as well as, making sure the sensors are all good to go as well. One of my favorite features is we have self-cleaning sensors, because you can't just have a self-driving car, you need self-cleaning sensors too. And the camera system on top of the vehicle have these teeny tiny windshield wipers and like little spray things to clean all the little camera sensors. And it's really fun to watch. They're very, very cute. Let's see. And then the next question, how supportable is this or how soon do you see this as a supportable service in rural areas? Yeah, great question. So right now, Waymo is focused on like core downtown areas, because that's where some of the like really complicated driving can happen. In terms of rural areas, for a while in Texas, we were driving on freeways, but if you guys are familiar with Texas, there's, really long stretches of freeway that are very popular with the trucking industry, the 35 and the 40, I think it's the 40. One of the things that we noticed is that driving on the freeway can be really boring because there aren't as many like unique instances that are happening. It's very unique from the perspective of you're driving faster and, vehicles, it means you have less reaction time. Luckily, technology can think faster than a human. But, those are some of the unique things. But when it comes to driving in rural areas, I think the same idea kind of applies. It's more of a matter of, when we can start expanding there, when we have the vehicle fleet capacity to do so, more than anything else. Okay, next question is, do the windshield wipers work in the rain for passengers? I actually love this question because it just rained the other day during one of my rides. So no, the Waymo vehicle doesn't need the windshield wipers to be operating. But I do have to say, I actually like that they do sometimes run just as a like passenger pleasure. Like, being able to just see outside the windshield, it does kind of give you some of that creature comfort if that's what you're used to, when you're on the road during the rain. But yeah, it's not necessary. It's just for the passengers. Fun question. How many miles or what length of time until the Waymo has to be recharged? Good question. I don't have the exact number. I think it's like several hundred before the recharge. All right, next question. I don't know if this is all the same person, so, but these are really fun. Can people schedule a Waymo in advance? If there are limited accessible vehicles or for wheelchair users, they might have to wait longer. So right now we don't have the function for scheduling a Waymo in advance. Everything is on demand. So, wait times can fluctuate. If it is during a really busy time, a good example would be like rush hour or, on the weekends when people are kind of out and, experiencing life more so than they would during like a work week. But I would say like that's one of the more common requests that we get for a feature. And so I would not be surprised if our team isn't already working on it. The other thing too is hailing rides for other people. That comes up a lot. And I know in the UCP community as direct service provider, that's a question we get a lot from other DSPs. And so we're also working on that kind of feature too, if scheduling rides for other people. And then wait times, we're pretty transparent about our wait times too. So when you hail the ride, you'll know what the wait time is. And you can decide from there if that's the right or appropriate wait time for you. It really does. It does kind of fluctuate though, depending on the day of the week and the time of day. I think that might be it for questions, unless anyone else has another burning one.
Does anyone else, or you can also raise your hand if you'd rather, if you don't want to type the question. So if anyone wants to do that, feel welcome to do that. I'm just going to tell you how geeked I am about this presentation. It's stunning, from a technological science sort of a perspective. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Let me say this. It's wonderful to be told the truth about the real progress of things. And I feel like it will really be a great thing. Certainly at time. Yeah, I just think it's a really great thing. I know that the limitations are going to take a while, but we can feel the progress, which to me is just so exciting. Oh, there's one. I'll let you go ahead with that one.
Oh, sure. Oh, it's just a really nice comment from Nan. Thank you, Nan. Yeah, I think, that's the progress wouldn't be possible without organizations like UCP either, though. We've been working with the national team, the localized teams to get feedback and input, especially in areas where we have vehicles. We're able to do user experience research, which is really important. You need people with that lived experience to give you feedback on what they want from the service. And so this is also just my opportunity to thank you guys for being part of the UCP community and for being willing to work with us and, help the engineers who don't have that same lived experience understand what needs to be incorporated into it. And thank you also for your patience while we get to Michigan.
Yeah, well, I've just been stunned and had such a great time today, and I want to thank Amanda for her presentation and how amazing it was. So I want to invite all of you that were here today. I know the schedule's changed, as y'all know, so the next time we meet will be May the 9th at 10 a.m. when the topic will be housing remodel for accessibility, and it will be individuals with lived experience in that system. So please put it on your calendar or make sure that you pay attention as the reminders come through because you've signed up for the series. And again, I had the most fun today. Amanda, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to see what's next.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Talk to you all soon, I hope.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.